Week 2 in the NFL was a very fun one and very exciting, and I even brought my own man over here to talk some NFL football, Dave Tukesbrey. Okay, we're going to get right into it. In a second, you're watching The Sports Cycle. Welcome to the Sports Cycle. I'm your host, Donnie Dwyer, alongside this young, fine gentleman, David Tukesbrey, WMUR Marquette Radio Sports Assistant Director. David, how are you doing today?
Oh, doing just fine, thanks, Donnie. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're going to talk about some NFL news. Let me just first start off by saying the 2-0 teams, okay? Now, it might be the apocalypse right now when I start saying them, but keep it in check here. 2-0 teams are the Lions, the Bills, the Redskins, the Packers, and a few teams to go on the list. But the key thing is the Bills and the Lions and the Redskins are 2-0. What do you think about that?
I think if anyone would have said that the Redskins would be 2-0 right now with Rex Grossman at the helm, I think people would have called all those experts crazy. They look pretty good right now. They got a pretty good running game. Grossman seems to have revitalized his career out in D.C., and with Buffalo, Ryan Fitzpatrick looks like Peyton Manning almost. He's, thrown 7 or 8 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. They blew out Kansas City, and then they came back from a 21-3 deficit against Oakland, so they looked really sharp. And Detroit, I think a lot of teams, that might be a lot of people out there, I think they might be the sleeper around the league. Matt Stafford seems to finally be healthy. Calvin Johnson looks good. Javid Best looks pretty good at running the ball. So they're going to turn some heads this year, Donnie, I think.
But when you look at the Redskins and you look at the Bills, is it just quarterback play or is it the coaching? Is it Shanahan? Is it the guys coming in from the front office? Is it bringing Stevie Johnson back for a huge deal? What really is the key to those success?
Well, it's hard to say, Donnie, but I think for Buffalo it has to just be it's really difficult to say, but I think maybe it is a little bit just Ryan Fitzpatrick. He has just played lights out the first 2 weeks of the season, and when you're down 21-3 at half, you need to be a leader in the locker room. And when you're down by 18 at half, you have to kind of rally the troops a little bit, and I think Fitzpatrick did that, and now they're sitting there at 2-0.
And you look at some 0-2 teams, you look at your own Seattle Seahawks, and you look at some other teams around the league. What, especially in your case, the Seahawks, this is a team that went to the playoffs, Marshawn Lynch run. You're looking at what they're going to do, Hasselbeck the guy. They didn't even bring him back this year. Right. What are the Seahawks looking to do coming into next week to try to get back on track?
Well, the funny thing is they're in the NFC West, and they actually have a legitimate chance to win the West. They're probably I think they're honestly probably one of the worst 2 teams in the league next to Kansas City. But next week they have to really get a good continuity on the offensive line. Of course, Robert Gallery's out this week. He'll be out 4 to 6 weeks, so the injury bug has been kind of biting Seattle again. But to realistically get a chance to win this game against Arizona, they really need to run the ball. I mean, Marshawn Lynch, I think he has 13 carries in 2 weeks, just not going to get it done. And Tavares Jackson's had little to no time to throw the football. He's had 10 sacks in 2 weeks. The offensive line just isn't getting him any time to throw the ball right now. And they got to get healthy. Sidney Rice needs to come back and actually play his first game in a Seahawks uniform here in Week 3.
And when you look at a guy like Sidney Rice, a game changer, who's been that game changer this year who people might have not heard of? Maybe it's C.J. Spiller coming out, that young rookie. Maybe it's a guy like Alexander from last night in the Rams game where he came up with 150 yards and a touchdown pass. Who's like a sleeper guy this year to look out for?
A sleeper guy? Oh, I don't know if this is going to be exactly a sleeper, but how about Andy Dalton for Cincinnati? I think this is a team that coming into the year, a lot of people expected, maybe 1-15, 2-14, 3-13 if they're lucky. He looks pretty sharp in the first 2 weeks of play. He goes on the road in Cleveland, very hostile environment there in the Battle of Ohio. Plays very well. Of course, he got hurt, but he came right back this last week against Denver and almost led a game-winning drive down there in the final 2 minutes. So I think you can't really say he's a sleeper, but I think Andy Dalton, he'd be my best guess.
You've seen a lot of injuries, Jamal Charles, and the list goes on and on, Patriots players. My thing is there a lot of injuries because of the fact that there was no training camp, there's only a few games of preseason? What was the main reason for all these injuries that have happened so far?
Well, the NFL is a contact league, period, and I think that, of course, training camp and all that stuff would have helped bring up these get these players a little more stronger. But this is a contact league, Donnie, and of course, I think you're going to see a lot of knee injuries, you're going to see a lot of ankle injuries, and it's really a shame for the Kansas City Chiefs because for me, I think they are the worst team in the league just because Barry, their starting safety, is out for the year. Jamal Charles, as you mentioned, is out for the year, so they got a lot of work to do, to be quite honest. But in all honesty, I do think that it has nothing to do with how long or how little time these teams have had to prepare. It's all about, I think, it's just a contact league, and that's the way it should be. That's the way the NFL is.
And you say it's a contact league. You look at the Dante Robinson, who got fined $40,000 for that hit on Maclin. It's football. You're going to hit each other. What's your reaction on that? Because let's put it this way. I honestly thought that it was just his shoulder and Maclin had his head going forward. That's a clean play.
Well, Robinson had the same play against, I think it was against Deshaun Jackson last year, and that's the whole weekend when all the big hits came and they implemented all these new rules. I don't like all this, you can't hit anybody. It's essentially turned into tag. It's turned into flag football, tag football, and I don't like the fact that you're taking away $40,000 from a guy that this is what he's been taught to do since he was about this tall. So I don't like the rule. I think it's a bad move by the NFL, bad move by Goodell, and especially with safeties. Safeties cannot remove the ball from the player anymore. You just can't hit anybody, and it's really taken a turn for the worse in the NFL nowadays, I think.
And if you want some more hard-hitting facts and hard-hitting news, log on to the website www.thesportscycle.com for all that news and information. Thanks, Dave, for coming on here. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you later next week when we'll have more updates. See you later, folks.